Yes, you are running out of time. You are losing time to achieve the things that you want to achieve because we're all running out of time. Every day, it's one day less of the time that we have on this planet. However, you do still have the choice on how to use and invest your time. Now, as someone who has an habitual internal narrative around I've never got enough time, today I want to share 3 things with you. Number 1, why that's just another form of lack mentality. Number 2, why it's creating results that you don't want. And number 3, what I've done to create safety and a new story in my brain. So if you're ready, let's dive right in. Welcome back to episode 177 of the Your Epsiode podcast. If you know me very well, you'll know that 7 is one of my favourite numbers. So to have 7 and 7 is quite exciting. And I'm going to start today with a quote. And the quote is this: time is free, but it's priceless. You can't own it, but you can use it. You can't keep it, but you can spend it. And once you've lost it, you can never get it back. Harvey Mackay. So talking about lack, this lack mentality of not enough time. And I am certain that I inherited my lack of time mentality from my mother. God bless her. So even at the age of 80, she still tells me and my sister that she doesn't have time to sit down. She doesn't have time to go and make new friends or to read a book. She's just too busy. It's like a badge of honor to be so busy that the good stuff, the stuff that makes us live, has to wait. And I want you to notice that I don't have time and I'm too busy, or I have so much to do or too much to do. They're just both sides of the same coin. And just like I don't have the money, I don't have the resources, not having time and being too busy or having too much to do or not having the time to do all the things that I need to do, it all just comes from a space of lack. And invariably, what my perception is where we have one place, one thought or model of lack, it's going to bleed out into other areas. So just hold that thought as we go through today. Where else might I be running this lack mentality that I've not noticed before? Because if you just say I'm too busy, it gives you this kind of false perception of having more. Right? But if you think about it, you're too busy to what? It means that there is a lack of time to do other things that you want to do. Now, my experience is that I've been working on this limiting thought for what seems like forever. And I'm telling you, it's a super strong weed. You think about it now, I'm 48 years old, my mum's 80, and I'm still getting, well, there is still a potential for a conditioning from her because she's still repeating that story. Even though we don't live together, I do spend a lot of time with her. So it's a really strong weed. And it was even just this morning, I woke up, I came downstairs and had a really good sleep. I had a totally empty diary for the day, just basically just like doing things that I wanted to do, meandering around. So there was nothing specific in my diary. And yet I still heard in my head, so much to do, not enough time. And I could, it was this, I could feel like these shutters going down in my brain. So what I want to do right now is I want to share the model that I run when this happens to me, just to illustrate how destructive this broken and habitual thought can be. So if you haven't listened to the episode on the model, I'm going to try and remember to put it in the show notes for you, but you can go and look at it. I think it's something about the one of the coaching resources that could change your life, but I'll do my best to find it. But basically the model, we have 5 steps: circumstance, thoughts, feelings, action, results. And the basic idea is that whilst we all get caught in our actions creating results, and to some degree, of course they do, there is this intangible and yet super powerful impact from the thoughts and the feelings that we have. And as human beings, what we'll often try and do is we'll try and change the circumstance. So as an example, if you find yourself in a job that you don't like, and it's the 3rd job that you've decided that you don't like, you might try and change a circumstance by changing your job again, thinking that if you change a circumstance, your thoughts and your feelings will change. invariably, as you may have heard me talk about and other people talk about, it's the changing of the internal environment that forever changes the external environment, not the other way around most of the time. So you might find yourself in your 50th job and still experience it in exactly the same way. So when I'm running this model of lack of time, it is so well rehearsed within me that I notice more often than not the feeling first. If you've ever listened to any of Joe Dispenza, Joe talks about how we are so well rehearsed at being who we are that the feelings will often just come up out of nowhere. It can take a tiny trigger, or it's just so well rehearsed, it's just there. So for me, it's the first thing I notice is it's like a bodily sensation. It's like this agitation in my solar plexus, a slight tightening of my chest. And the only way I can describe it is like it's almost like this is it a compulsion? I don't know if that's the right word, but like this unconscious action of trying to propel myself into the future. So I feel agitated. I have this sense of I say dizziness from the perspective of uncertainty, like my brain is scrambled. I don't create clarity very quickly. Anxiety can increase. I do get frustrated with myself and in that emotion. I have this sense of feeling rushed, and I can feel resentful. Now, to record this, I started thinking about, okay, so what are the thoughts? If I had the feeling first, if I notice my thoughts, what my thoughts be? So this is what you're going to do if you're going to run your model. Obviously, one of the first things is, oh my God, there's too much to do. Or there's too much to do. What should I do? I don't know what to pick. I've always got so much to do. And I want to tell you now, in the most part, for me, I'm very blessed that none of that is actually really ever true. You know, my life has changed a lot. My kids are, you know, I've only got one child at home. She's never here. She's always out and working and doing stuff. You know, my husband's out of the house very much. I've got a really nice life, but I'm still running the model, right? So notice my circumstances have changed huge amounts over the last 10 years. You know, location, my family, my finances, massive changes. And yet the model can still run. Now, what I want to put a caveat in here as well at the moment is that I believe that the reason that I am running this model, or this model is running more frequently in my life at the moment, is because I'm experiencing like a fear/stress response. So if you listen to my last podcast episode, which if you didn't, please go listen, because it's about honoring the season you're in. I talked to you about how I'm in what I'm calling this fallout season, which is the culmination of, you know, the last year of my dad's life and how horrific that was, and losing him and kicking my daughter out of the home because she was doing drugs, and, you know, dealing with the grief and the post-traumatic stress that came with that, and moving house and getting COVID and all the things. And now for me, every time I start to feel even just a little bit overwhelmed, my brain wants to go into shut down, and I'm okay with that. It's just a season. So I'm having to find different ways of dealing with things. And I talked to you in the last episode about what I'm actually doing. So for me right now, this response is even more powerful. Okay. So just notice that for yourself. Now, when I'm running those thoughts and having those feelings, what are the actions that happen? What do I see myself doing? Well, a couple of things happen. So number one, either I don't create or I don't stick to a schedule, like I avoid it. I do things back to back. So I don't create any space. So I go from one thing to another thing to another thing to another thing, because it feels lazy to be taking a break every 10 minutes, or take 10 minutes from one activity to another. Like I just go back to back. I put way too much on my to-do list. And notice and we'll talk about this in a second, by putting too much on my to-do list, I'm giving my brain evidence that I don't have enough time to do all the things that I need to do. I also don't honor my boundaries, and I tend to think about others first. So I think about my mum. Have I seen my mum enough? Have I spent enough time with her? Have I done enough? Have I spent enough time with my husband? Have I all the things? And I find myself either overworking or barely doing anything and then judging myself for that. So the result, as you can imagine, when I'm in these moments, is sporadic action, sporadic progress towards my goals. And what I notice myself is this constant state of exhaustion from either overdoing, overthinking, or both. It is not a good model to run, people. And I'm sharing it with you to let you know that that awareness gives us an opportunity to create a new model. So when I'm running the model, I literally become a physical manifestation of the statement, I'm so busy, I don't have time. And listen up. If we maintain a broken and habitual thought, i.e., brushing it under the carpet or trying to outthink it or outwork it, it will continue to create unresourceful feelings and culminate in no or disappointing results. So, where is this story playing out for you? How do you see evidence of it in your life? And maybe most importantly, how do you keep creating more evidence of the truth of this lie? Because one of the things that I have believed for a really long time and that I talk about a lot is that we see what we seek. So even if we're saying to ourselves, you know, I've got the best business, I'm the best coach for this particular client, you know, I can make money, yada, yada, yada. If we're verbalizing it, but our internal and unconscious thoughts and feelings and frequency is creating a frequency of lack and disbelief and uncertainty, then we will always see proof of that. That is why the model is so powerful. It's about teaching my clients to focus less on what they're doing and more about what if the results you're getting are because of what you're thinking and what you're feeling, and it's tainting every bit of action that you do. So how are you creating more evidence? So I just shared with you that for me, I tend to put so much on my list and put other people first and squeeze the things in so that I can prove to people that I've got so much to do, that I'm so busy, justify my existence, right? So let's circle back to the beginning. We are all running out of time. And another truth is that we all have 24 hours in a day. And the charge, i.e. the emotion, comes from how we choose to think and feel about our 24 hours and what we commit to doing in that time, and the judgment that we create for ourselves. And I got to thinking about, with all the people I've coached and with my own experience of this model, what is it that I see most frequently as being the number one reason why people don't create a schedule? They don't look at their time. They don't brace this head on. So take out the lack mentality, because we've kind of discussed that. And what I came up with was, invariably, people either don't know what's really important to them, or they don't have the courage to prioritize what's important. It's all about the values. And within that, if you look at that as the umbrella, what comes below that is things like FOMO. Oh my goodness, if I don't do this, I'm going to miss out. If I don't go out with my friends when they're all going out, if I don't pick this, if I don't go on this course, if I don't buy this course, then I'm going to miss out. If I don't work with that person, I'm going to miss out. FOMO causes us to add more and more and more on. One of the great ways that small business owners are amazing at doing this is believing that they don't have enough information. So they sign up for another freebie, they sign up for another low paid course, they sign up for another workshop, they sign up for another certificate, and now they've got even more on their plate. So of course they don't have time to do everything. That could be true, but do they have time to do the things that are important? I believe so. So we've got FOMO. We've got this innate belief in hard work being the right way, that we have to do all the things, we have to work hard because hard work is how we succeed. So if we believe that's true at an unconscious level, we're going to create that in our life. Another one, lack of boundaries around time and energy. Massive for the nurturer archetype. If you've ever done my Sacred Money Archetypes quiz, you'll know that nurturers tend to put others first, and it's a way for them to build up their self-worth. So when you don't have boundaries around how you invest your time and your energy, with whom and where, you're going to bleed out. Also, not knowing yourself enough to honor your values. This takes a huge amount of courage in a world we're in today, where we're told this is what success looks like. And we see the bodies, and we see the homes, and we see the cars, and we see the relationships, and we see the bank accounts, and we see the, you know, the insta pretty life. To be the person that says, you know what, I don't want that. Like it doesn't light me up. I want to spend more time walking the dog in the fields, and I'm happy to earn less, and I'm happy to downsize, and I'm happy to not to have a car. Like that takes so much courage, and I admire those people incredibly. It's a journey that I'm on right now, and I can tell you it's tough because we are breaking down the walls of conditioning that have told us what we think we should want and what's going to make us happy. So when we don't know ourselves enough to honor what we value, we're always going to be trying to put more on our plate. And then last of all, under that umbrella is the fear of prioritizing the goals. Because the minute we start to think about goals, our brain offers us three things that we need to be scared of. We need to be scared of what we're going to lose if we go after this goal. We need to be scared of how bloody difficult it's going to be. And we need to be scared of what if we do it and it doesn't work. So when you put all of these things together, doesn't it make most sense that you don't prioritize, that you don't schedule, that you don't honor your values, because your brain freaks out, it perceives it as unsafe, you might miss out on something else, you won't be able to support your hard work mentality. You might piss people off because you're going to have boundaries around how you spend your time. Oh, and put on top of that, you might actually have to get to know yourself. So they're the things I've really noticed. And I think on top of that, please have a look at how you were brought up and notice if you heard this no time story. Just going back to my mum. So my mum had 5 children, and she had 3 almost back to back, and then she had 10 years, and then me and my twin sister came along. And my dad worked long hours, worked several jobs when me and my sister came along because they didn't have any money. My mum and dad never had any money until me and my sister got a little bit older. My mum went and got a part-time job. So she's still looking after the children. She's running the house. She's going out to work. And I saw that story play out sometimes as a form of frustration, so that it was a case of like, I'm doing all of this stuff on my own. And back then, or maybe it was just my parents, but I'm sure not, we didn't have these conversations with our partners. We didn't say what we needed. We didn't let them know we were struggling. We didn't let them, it wasn't expected back then that you asked for their help within the home and with the children, right? So it was almost like this martyrdom thing. And you know what? I found myself doing it. When my 2 girls were younger, I found myself having exactly the same conversation and frustration and anger and resentment towards my husband. And the book that really helped me see that was Maybe It's You. I can't remember the lady's name, but it's called Maybe It's You. And I was like, I'm not like my mum and dad. And then I read it. I was like, holy crap. I'm totally like my mum and dad, and I've created this relationship. So me and my husband have worked really hard on that. And thankfully, we're out of the other side. So just notice, amongst all those other things, notice the level of conditioning. Now, as always, I like to offer you an activity or a homework because I don't want to just keep giving you information. You've got enough of that. Let's get you into action. Let's get you into transformation. And I want to just share with you that something that when I did my coaching with Brendan Burchard in 2018, one of the things that was a mind-blowing moment for me, which seems so simple, but often things most powerful are the most simple, right? And he said, your freedom is in your schedule. And the way that he talked about that, he said, we get a lot of people who like to be very flowy and very acting on their intuition and very fly by the seat of your pants. He said, but that doesn't always work. In fact, invariably, it doesn't work. And that when you actually schedule time in for the things, you schedule the time for nothing. You schedule the time for your walking. You schedule your time for your fun and you're making your mandalas and your bonfire nights with your friends and your angel cards or whatever. That's where your freedom is, because you've prioritized it. Your brain goes, oh, this is important. I'm making time for that. And it doesn't need to be mutually exclusive from the things that are going to move you forward. From honoring your body, from working out, from eating and creating good food, from working on your business, from working on your relationships, like it all goes in. When you create this schedule, you're providing evidence for your brain that you do have time for all of the things that are important. And the easiest way to do that is obviously just to create this schedule. And as a visual person, lists, I've got a list as well, really don't work for me. So I want you to go with what feels good in your body. If some kind of list format works, go for it. For me, it has to be something visual and colorful. And my brain goes, oh, yeah. I see that now. I've tried doing it on my phone and it just doesn't land with me in the same way. So again, find out what works for you. Online stuff just doesn't. I like the paper. I like to see it. I like to be able to carry it around with me, put my coffee cup on it. And the easiest way that I do it is either go and find something free online, buy a cheap template from Etsy or something, or very simply creating a doc on Word or Excel where you can, and I do it week by week, right? If I've got, or if I do it for the month, like it's just to schedule in things that are like non-negotiable, networking events, coaching calls, consultation calls, all that kind of stuff. But if I go week to week, I literally just have like Monday through Sunday on there. And I have, blocks of time. I might do them in hours at a time. And I schedule everything so that I color it, I color code it, right? So fun for me is pink. If I'm looking at family for some reason, I say for some reasons because it's heart chakra, it's love, it's green. Okay. Work is blue. Never even thought about the colors that I've used before. Interesting. Okay. So I have colors for home, family, for business. It could be your career. It could be your job, relationship, nothing. You're allowed to schedule time to do nothing, to sit around on your backside and do whatever you want to do. Read, sleep, watch TV. It doesn't matter. You can do nothing. Free time, break time. And it got me to thinking about, remember when we was at school and you could get through even the most horrifically boring lesson if it was right before lunch, right before break, or right before home time, because you knew your schedule, you knew what was coming. So when you see a schedule and you see a lovely big block of fun time or free time or nothing time or relationship time or, gym time or whatever, and you're like, oh yeah, even if this particular work thing doesn't really light me up, I can get through it because I've got that on the other side. And the caveat to all of this is that you have to have the courage to honor what you value, know what your non-negotiables are, and work with the time that you've got. For those of you that still have young children that have school runs and homework and after school club and stuff, oh my God, bless you is all I can say. I know that I couldn't do that now. Right? I wasn't the best, I wasn't the most maternal mother in the first place, but that would, oh my goodness, I honor you so much. There are things that you can't do. So rather than passing judgment and getting peed off about that, just find out where you do have the time and scheduling half an hour rather than telling yourself every day you have no time and then just get more frustrated. That half an hour could be your savior. And as I said in the last one, as our seasons change, our schedules can change. We have that. We can choose to do that. Again, it takes courage. So I really hope you have enjoyed this episode today. I think it's so important because life is so incredibly short. I have a couple of quotes around, life is a gift and not a chore. And understanding the fragility of life, I think, helps us to anchor into the importance of living it and experiencing it every day and bringing joy to it every day, not just investing, we will be happy when. Like, it's such a waste, but it's something that oftentimes we have to train ourselves to do. And that's okay. We don't need to judge ourselves for that either. So please do make sure you go back to listen to last week's episode. And as always, there will be a link around the show notes. If you want to book your free discovery call with me and find out what one-to-one coaching looks like for you, I would be more than happy to talk to you. And I will speak to you again in the next episode of the Your Rich Life podcast.